Hello and welcome back to the Franchise Growth Pod. This is Belle. I am lead on all things marketing at AC Inc. And I am back with Jen Brannon, our incredible VP of Ops here at AC. How's it going, Jen?
It's going great, Belle. I'm happy to be with you again on the pod.
Love it. We love to have the two gals back on the pod. Jen, I have a quick question for you. I am wondering, what is the favorite or top concert you've ever been to?
Oh, uh, that's a good question.
How about you can have two?
Okay. You know what? I wasn't a big concert goer when I was a teenager or anything. I've only really started to get into concerts. Um, Ideally, I'd love to say Madonna or the Spice Girls, but I've never seen either one of those, so I
Oh
can't
my
say
gosh.
so I'm gonna say I really enjoyed Blake Shelton, and Zach Brown band. I love, and I'm seeing them in a few weeks actually.
Oh my gosh, so fun. Okay, that's really interesting. Why do you think you weren't into concerts when you were younger? Like, why do you think you kind of are getting into them now?
I lived in a small town. We didn't have access to them, whereas now I live just outside of Toronto, and so it's easy to go and see concerts. And it wasn't a thing my parents did, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I have noticed some people are like really, really into live music, and then other people can kind of take it or leave it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I've decided I really love live music when it's outside. I've decided unless I really love the artist, I kind of only want to go to like outdoor. I've been to like stadium concerts. Those are really fun because they're kind of outside and they have that same feeling, or like really small, like at a market or whatever. I love like a little live band or something. But like going into a stadium or something when it's like really dark, I don't know. I'm just like not as into it anymore. I feel like I used to be more into it. But those are great. Blake Shelton, such a good vibe. That sounds super, super fun. Well, Jen, thank you for answering my little icebreaker question. We are going to dive right in today. I'm really excited to chat about field support, specifically like field coaching. I'm talking about coaching in general for franchisees, franchisee support just all around, specifically using all of those in franchise development. It's this kind of like niche part of the field coaching space that we do get a fair amount of inquiries about, like how do you actually put it into your friend process and recruitment and vetting and all these things. So I'm going to break it into some smaller questions, but when we're talking about franchisee support, field coaching, growth coaching, all these things, how does that fit with franchise development? Maybe for anyone who's kind of new to it, how do those two things kind of work together when we're talking about like the value it brings to a system?
It's unbelievably valuable, and it needs to happen, meaning if you have a solid field coaching program, your franchisees, and there's our stats I can't roll off right now, but there are stats to prove that your franchisees are more satisfied, they're more profitable, and they're growing, and because they get what they need in order to be moving forward. And so when you have happy franchisees, that means you are going to have better validators. So those people that are going to speak to your candidates, that are going to ask the question, validators can make or break your friend of. And so and with things these days, candidates are much more educated than they've ever been, especially if you are being compared to other systems. So they're going to want to ask about your field support and what kind of coaching they're going to get and what kind of support they're going to get. So being able to hear from the validators that are happy about that and can go into more detail and really, well, they should be just validating what the candidates have already heard. It's really important. And also they're going to grow more, they're going to be more profitable, so therefore you're just going to look like a more successful system, and it's going to be a more attractive offering for your candidates.
Oh my gosh. So covered so many amazing things there. I'm just going to kind of sum it up. So we've got the franchisee validation is really, really huge. That's typically what we hear the most of, is people kind of saying like, oh, I see how this connects, because if franchisees are doing better, meaning they're making more money, they're happier in their business, they're more engaged in the brand, they see the value of the brand, they're obviously going to speak more highly of the system, of the concept of being a franchisee, which is going to help with that validation and bringing in more franchisees. So that's kind of the most most common one we hear, and you touched on that a lot there, which is awesome. The other thing you mentioned though is just overall like your brand reputation. Just having more franchisees be happy is kind of, it's not directly connected to the validation. It's actually connected more to your brand being known to have happy, successful franchisees, and having like the industry know that, I feel like is slightly different than the validation piece. And I think it, I mean, from what I've seen, it's still equally as important, is kind of like, you know, what brand doesn't want to be known as the system that has awesome, really successful owners. And then that last bit you mentioned, and this is where I want to dive in a little bit more, is the I can't remember how you phrased it, but it's like finding the right people who are then going to go, okay, I see the value, I see what I'm going to get, I'm looking at all these other options, and then I understand that I'm getting the best value out of this support or this concept or this system. And that's the finding those right fit franchisees and kind of almost using field coaching, field support as a recruitment tool. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm frog in my throat. Um, so I'm curious, like, if you were going to say kind of best practices for including field support in the recruitment process, so finding the right people, making sure they're on board with what you're doing, but then also, as you said, standing out amongst other systems by like really clearly showcasing the value they're going to get from being an owner of this brand. What are ways you can kind of put that into that process that helps you, first of all, vet and make sure you have the right people coming on board, but also helps them really understand you know, the added value or the special value they're going to get from getting coaching in this brand?
Well, I'm a big believer in anytime that I'm advising a franchisor on the recruitment process and taking candidates through. I love a good slide deck. I'm a big believer in it. When I did FranDev, this is what we that we used, that really highlights a lot of things, but talking about the benefits of candidates of our system. You know, join our system because these are what you're gonna get, focusing on things like the franchise support, you know, as well as training and you know, systems and processes and different things like that, but focusing on the franchise support and show all of the elements about of that. So what does that look like in marketing? What does that look like in ongoing training and development? What does that look like in coaching? And you know, your resource library and this and that, and all of those things, really highlighting those in your process, in your deck, so that it's really appealing and engaging and gets the excitement of the candidates. That's really key, because typically candidates, people come to franchise because they've never run their own business before and they want help. And so if we can show them, we're not just going to help you train you how to open the brand, but we are going to support you and help you along the way and coach you to grow in all of these things and bring you together with your other franchisees. And, you know, we've got this library and we help you with social media and all of these things. Those are massive selling features. And, you know, in our experience, we see that still to this day, some of the biggest brands that people would know don't have a solid franchise support system. We're really, really trying to make that change. So highlighting that in the process first is really key. For sure. Secondly, you can, you know, I'm again a believer, as you're going through the process, you're not only telling them about the brand and kind of selling the brand in a sense, but more importantly, you're trying to be vetting them as the right candidate for your brand. And having people that get excited about the support and the collaboration with other franchisees and getting the coaching and like just loving that is showing you that, hey, maybe these guys fit our ideal profile of a candidate, of a franchisee.
I think that's so key. Like, and you were even super clear in terms of when you bring that up. I'm really curious though. So if you bring it, you have a slide deck, which I know Jen does love a slide deck. You do love it.
I do.
But as you're kind of showing them, and again in like a visually exciting, you know, good way, and they get, you know, you see them getting excited, you're like, perfect. That means they're obviously very open and receptive, and they're going to be coachable, which is actually a really key thing. Because again, if they're really entrepreneurial and want to do everything on their own, like that's awesome, but they should not follow a strict system concept. They should go build something by themselves, and that's great. Everyone has their own career journey and business journey. But what do you think is the balance though? Because if someone is hearing that they're going to get ton of ongoing support and a ton of ongoing like one-on-one sessions and training, and they can get in touch with people if they're hearing all of this support stuff. Have you ever struggled with kind of how to, maybe not have you ever struggled, but because you literally build these, this is your specialty. So, but have you seen people maybe struggle with how to phrase the support and coaching in a way that doesn't make it seem like you're just going to handhold? Like it's still, you still have to bring out that they have to feel ownership and, want to go out and do these action steps and take charge. And they're obviously in charge of their own business and goals, and a coach is helping them, and sometimes guiding them back in the right direction to actually achieve them. But that kind of sense of ownership and drive and grit and stuff, do you ever see that there needs to be kind of a balance in how we talk about the support and coaching, so that you're not just getting someone who goes, perfect, sounds like they're just going to do a lot of it for me, instead of feeling that sense of ownership?
100%. It's all about how you frame all of this, because that's part of your vetting also. So you're going to explain exactly what it is and how the system helps. But at the same time, it's absolutely going to need to be presented in that way. This is your own business, under, our brand. So, you want to manage those expectations of their involvement. So you're asking questions about that. So give you a perfect example. Community marketing is something I know so many systems struggle with, struggle getting their franchisees to do. And so when I was doing Fran Dev, I would ask, I would set the expectations as, here's what you're going to need to do. We will help you by providing you this, giving you training, coaching you, keeping you accountable to your goals and your action plans, but you're going to have to go out and do these things. And here are the types of marketing efforts that work for our brand. How do you feel about that? Tell me, is this something that you see yourself doing? Because if it's not, maybe this, we are not a good fit for you, because this is a massive piece of our business, right? So using those elements and framing it a certain way, managing expectations, and then asking questions around them all, so that you are making sure that you are only moving forward with candidates that really are aligned with those.
Yeah, I think that's really, really key. And I mean, even just in my head, I'm thinking of like even thinking, what your daily, what is your daily life going to look like, and I know that's a big part of often that recruitment process and vetting is the figuring out like, is the day-to-day life going to be a good fit for you? And day-to-day life is probably not going to include directly that coaching and support every time. Your daily life should be, you are running and owning a business, and then the coaching is helping direct the actions, right? Direct the big action steps, or the holding you accountable to things that sometimes aren't as fun, or what, knowing your numbers, all these awesome things, helping with your mindset when you're struggling, all of that. But it's not like day-to-day hand-holding support. That's what we call over support, which we actually have done an episode on as well. Yeah, I just think that's a really key part of when we're talking about using field support and field coaching in the process, of the recruitment and development. That seems to be a really key part, is making sure that the support and coaching is a benefit, but it doesn't take away from the fact that you are a business owner who needs to do, your own actions to grow your business. I think is really, really key. And I really liked how you phrased that. I had one kind of last question. Hold on. Oh, you already kind of answered the when should you bring up recruitment. In the process, you mentioned kind of early on in the like deck process, but do you think like at this point, and you even mentioned like some bigger brands don't have like coaching programs put in place, which is part of why AC Inc. Was created, because we wanted to see more and more coaching and support programs put in systems across the globe, which is happening now, which is awesome. But at this point, like, do you think having it on your website, do you think having a lot of detail around it is going to really help you stand out, or do you think that it's and this is more just a personal question, like just on your own insight. Do you think at this point you see a lot of support and stuff mentioned on Fran Dev websites and that kind of thing, or do you think that highlighting it is helping you stand out at this point in time? And I know the industry changes all the time, but just right now, or do you think it's a standout thing? Do you think it's a way that can kind of make people go, oh, this is different? Or or is saying we have franchisee support kind of pretty standard and you really want to get more detailed into what that is?
I think it's more and more we're seeing it.
Mhm.
But again, I still look at certain, websites, new potential clients of ours or something, and it's not there. So it's definitely needs to continue to evolve. I like seeing it,
Mhm.
because and especially about knowing your ideal profile for your candidates.
Yeah.
Is it super important? Because
Yeah.
if you're like, if it is to you, I mean, I feel like it should be important to all concepts, but I know quick service restaurants can tend to be more on the operational side,
Yeah.
because and health and safety and all of that kind of stuff. So that's when I maybe don't see it as much
Gotcha.
as others, but I really do like seeing it. And if you think that, yeah, that's something that our potential candidates, because maybe a lot of quick service restaurant people maybe have run businesses before,
Sure.
have own other brands and that kind of thing. So I think that's why the difference. Everyone else, typically, I think it's probably something that should be on a website and
Yeah.
talked about.
And I
Yeah.
think just even from, I mean, my specialty is the website side. I love putting together a good website, but on a website, being able to highlight it in a way that is not just, it's not just one dot on a list. I think to me, that's where I see it a lot. And I agree, I don't see it on every system by any means. And that's again, something we're trying to change as a company. But when I do see it, I often see it as like a list, like, oh, one thing we, offer, like one thing you'll get out of becoming a franchisee is you'll get ongoing support. That's typically what I see. And it's like on a list of like marketing, training, blah, 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 like franchisee support. Like it'll just kind of be a little jot down list thing amongst so much other information. And to me, I'm just thinking, because it's still such a standout thing and because it's still such a big part of, if it is, as you said, part of your profile of your ideal franchisee, someone who's going to thrive in the brand, then I think it should be highlighted a little bit more. Like I pretty much don't see any brands at this point not offering marketing training or a resource library. Like those are pretty standard. I don't see a lot of, or it's kind of like an ops manual or something. It's like I don't see a ton of brands who are like, guess what, guys, we have operations procedures and stuff. It's like, no, kind of everyone has that. So I think if you are offering something that is really unique, it does feel like something that could be highlighted really, really early, even on something like your webpage, or even in your socials, talking about it. And then, as you said, bringing it up in that deck and kind of highlighting it more specifically and making sure that's a part of the vetting and recruitment. But I think people can actually go a little harder on talking about it even earlier, because I think it does still stand out a lot in terms of the other options that are out there. And it doesn't need to just be like a point on a kind of standard list. But anyway, that's just my thoughts.
No, and I absolutely agree. And I really do think, if you are generating leads from your website, if people are coming to your website, and not that we want to tell them everything, but we certainly want to be highlighting some of those key things. One of the things I don't see, that I'd love to see more, is I think that the franchisors a lot of times are missing the opportunity to highlight the collaboration, the community, the franchisee community, and that you're giving them opportunities to come together, to learn from one another, to sit on committees, to join peer groups, different things like that they could be doing, because that can be attractive to a lot of people, and that's all under franchisee support.
Yeah.
um Collaborate. A lot of people maybe not make that connection, but it is, and showing people how you are going to help them, when they buy this business, how you are going to help support them, not just in training, but full on. So I'm a big believer of digging deeper into that for sure.
That's so, so key. Yeah, I think that's a really, really great key takeaway to kind of finish off this awesome conversation. Jen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. This was such a valuable discussion and such an important topic that I don't think we've actually ever covered on the podcast before. So super fun to have the first episode on this, and I'm sure we'll have more getting into even more specifics as we do with most topics on here. But thank you so much. And is there anything you want to add before we finish up?
No, I don't think so. I think I
Amazing.
said
Amazing.
all I can say.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for coming to join us, and thank you everyone so much for listening. Hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your week, and go be awesome.